It's Blissen Up. I'm your host, Rachel Lang, intuitive astrologer. Get starstruck with inspiring guests and engaging conversations. Blissen Up starts now. Hello and welcome. Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi. This is Blissen Up, and I am your host, Rachel Lang, and that was the voice of my sound engineering producing rock star, John Williams.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm really thrilled and I'm really excited because today we have a guest, a very special guest, Marianne Williamson, who's an internationally acclaimed best-selling author and a spiritual leader and teacher, and someone who has made such a difference in my life. And I would say that Marianne's work taught me more about love and more about relationships and more about spirituality than almost anything else I've read.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's, when I read Return to Love in college, one of her books, Return to Love, it changed my life and set my course in a totally different direction from where it was going, but in the direction that it needed to go. And I think it's really one of the reasons why I'm here.
I was gonna say, look where you are now.
I know. So she's had so I'm so thrilled to have her on my show. And thank you to Michelle Polino, who is the host of the Pure Polino Show here on UBN Radio. I had the honor and the privilege of being Michelle's co-host, and I met Marianne through Michelle, and Michelle made this connection. So thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Val. And if everyone can just tweet Michelle a quick hello and thank you, and show her our love. Exactly. Wonderful. So that's happening today. And this really kicks off my month of love. February is a month. It starts in just a couple of days, and which means two things. Number one, my monthly horoscopes are going to be posted on the Live Box magazine and also on my website, blissenup.com, tomorrow, so you can see what February has in store for you and what your Valentine's Day is going to look like. And number two, it's a month dedicated to the heart. The heart is the center of who we are. It's the point at which in our bodies our souls connect to this world, to this earth, and to this earthly plane, and so it's a month where we expand our hearts. We look at relationships. We look at issues of love and the spiritual and transformative power of love in our lives, and the power that love has to change our world. And so I'm dedicating my show this month to love and relationships. And so all through this month, we're going to be talking with very special guests, and finding out all the nuances of love and relationships. And in this show, I talk a lot about balancing Mars and Venus energies. We have been living in a very Mars-dominant time, which Mars is all about our self-assertion. It's about our ego. It's about the development of self. Self as conceived of as being different than others. And what Venus says is that we're all connected. And so Venus, it loves the idea of creative connections that foster change personally and foster change in our world. And so we're gonna revive Venus. Venus right now in the heavens is in the sign of Pisces, which deals with universality. It deals with a spiritual connection. It's ruled by Neptune, which is a higher octave of the heart chakra. And so we're really talking about love in all of its depth, all of its power and its potency. And so, we have in our cosmic communication and our cosmic symbolic language right now, all of these nuanced feminine voices, and they're coming into our conversations. And so everything that's happening astrologically is reinforcing Venus's craving for those connections and for relationships. And it's a Venus retrograde year. So we're all returning back to our heart centers this year and away from our fears contained in the ego. So it's a big year for relationships. And if you don't believe me, just wait. When we get into March and April, you'll really start seeing some relationship shifts and changes and more balance in your relationships if they have been unbalanced. So so that's what we're doing. We're moving into February. Now a little bit about Marianne Williamson. Marianne has written extensively on the subject of love, and in my opinion, she is a living example of how the transformative power of love dissipates fear and opens us up for truly miraculous living. And I first discovered one of Marianne's books, A Return to Love, when I was studying the Course of Miracles in college, and that book changed my life, and I continue to be affected, inspired, and transformed by her writing, by her Monday live stream talks that you can access and you can find out more about on mariannewilliamson.com, and also just by her loving presence in the world. She really is a change agent, and one of our truly great masters. I believe that. So I'm really grateful that she's here. And so we're going to bring her on in 2 minutes, but first, let's get starstruck. And this is the segment where we talk about what's happening in our symbolic language of astrology this week. What is your forecast? And so today, the sun is hovering over us in Aquarius, which is the sign of universal love and connection and love in service of humanity. And so it reminds us that love is boundless. It is free. It's an energy that just wants to flow without restraint. And every act of love freely expressed connects us to the divine. As the pure source of love. And therefore, all human experiences of love are empowered by the divine to revitalize grace in the world. And so in the heavens this morning, Venus and Saturn are doing a little bit of a challenging dance. And so we're going to be feeling the effects of that as we move about our day, especially you mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Fear can creep in and challenge you in terms of relationships. So this is a time when relationships in general might feel a little bit challenged, and especially under Mercury retrograde, which we talked about last week. And so our communication is compromised, and we have to learn how to feel our way through situations, because we're all just a little bit blind under a Mercury retrograde, and having to open up to our other senses, like intuition. So in addition to that, Mercury is doing its dance with the Sun and the Moon in Gemini. And the moon in Gemini. And this is reminding us that communication takes place in so many different ways. Our thoughts, non-verbally, through our intuition, that we're always in communication. We're always communicating, in addition to just the words that we say. So the moon is getting brighter, moving into its fullness. That's going to happen on Tuesday in Leo. And so we have a little bit of illumination right now on our path, especially the path behind us. We're illuminated to what missteps we may have made, what choices we wish we hadn't. And so by looking backward, by the full moon illuminating our paths backwards, we can then create a more expansive path moving forward. So we have some clarity moving us forward on our journey. And our water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Now, for you, this is going to be a romantic weekend, and that fosters connection with other people, with family, and it's kind of a slow, peaceful, lovely weekend for you. And then Monday is an excellent day for our air and fire signs, great for communication and for opening the door for creative collaboration with others. So follow those brilliant ideas. And then our fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. You get a dose of intensity with the Tuesday's full moon. And so remember that this full moon reflects our desire for interpersonal connection. It reflects our desire for romantic love, as well as our need for individual recognition. And so pageantry is juxtaposed to sort of quiet romantic nights at home. And so for you fire signs, you might want to get out and play, whereas our water signs might be inclined to nurture your closest relationships and really form those connections. The Sabian symbol is two lovebirds singing happily in a tree. So that is a brief abbreviated version of our weekly forecast. For more information, you can visit my website, blissenup.com, and read a little bit more in depth about what's happening for you. We're going to take a really short break and play the quintessential love song by Aquarian Etta James. And when we come back, we'll be joined by the amazing Marianne Williamson. Welcome back. You are listening to Blissen Up, and I'm your host, Rachel Lang, and I have in studio right now the incredibly talented author, internationally acclaimed best-selling author, and spiritual leader, Marianne Williamson. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again.
It's so good to see you, too.
Thank you.
So you have, so I want to dig right in. We're talking about love.
Right.
Because this is the month of love.
Right.
And you have a workshop coming up called Invoking the Romantic Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about this and about the relationship between spirituality and romance that you discuss.
Well, sometimes we talk about relationships as a category and health as another category, and finance and career as another category, and spirituality as another category. Spirituality is not just a category of our lives. It's the underpinning issue. It is the ground on which we stand. And we either stand on fear or we stand on love. And that has everything to do with the mental filter through which we see the world, which then affects our own nervous system. It affects our self-identity. It affects who we think we are and how we go through the world. And then, of course, our relationships with other people. The spiritual conversion, as it were, from a fear-based to a love-based response to life is one in which, as much as in any other area, intimate relationships are affected. Because intimate relationships obviously are an area where, when they're working correctly, they are transformative, they're healing, they are blissful at their best. Right. Talk about blissing up. Nothing blisses us up, healing so toes, right? But it's also an area, most of us have experienced this as well, where when it does not go well, when it is bound by fear, and when it is reflective of a fear-based way of looking at the world, where I think I'm in danger, and so I think I have to defend myself. And I am so tied to this notion of myself as separate that it's actually very difficult for me to reach across the wall to truly intimately connect with another person. Then intimate relationships can be a place of great suffering, and most of us have the scars to prove that. Mm-hmm. So what that weekend is an inquiry into how to take a worldview where we do not see ourselves as separate, where we see ourselves obviously as separate in the realm of the body, but not in the realm of the spirit. Issues like that, you apply it to intimate love, which is very big place. Where is it about vulnerability? Where is it about healthy boundaries? Mm-hmm. Where is it about forgiveness, and where is it about being walked upon? Where is it about having your own agenda for what you want in a relationship, and where is it about surrender to the divine? Mm-hmm. These spiritual issues are really core issues in romantic love if we actually look at them that way. So this weekend, starting Friday night, ending Sunday around 1:00, is a place where we go really deep into these inquiries. What makes holy love? What is sacred space? Where does the whole notion of sacred space apply? If we're talking about an intimate relationship, is it a sacred space just mine, or is it a sacred space for the relationship itself? And if there is a sacred space for the relationship itself, how does this affect how I see myself, how I see the other person, and also how we work together and how we love together, and how this affects the way we see our relationship?
Absolutely. It's something that you write quite a lot about in,
yes.
and in both Enchanted Love,
yeah.
which I love. I mean, I'm such a romantic that when I read this, I was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking to me. And also in A Return to Love.
Right.
And one of the things that you specifically address is in terms of the fears that you address in Enchanted Love, is that we have both resistance to love, and also we have this pull toward love.
Right.
And so how do we navigate the difference between those two energies, the pull away and the pull toward?
Well, that's why a spiritual path is so important, because when you make your relationship with the divine your primary relationship, then this makes much more solid ground when it comes to relating to other people. Relationships from a spiritual perspective are assignments. We are assigned to people with whom there is the maximal soul growth opportunity. And that's because the universe is intentional. The universe through a natural intelligence within the cells, turns an embryo into a baby and an acorn into an oak tree and a bud into a flower, into a blossom. The idea here is that nature similarly intends for you to be the woman that you're capable of being and for me to be the woman I'm capable of being. Our self-actualization is the intention of the universe, just like making a baby is the intention of the universe in working through an embryo. Now, therefore, our relationships come into our lives as part of this matrix of infinite love and possibility.
Oh, I love that.
But we grow through a kind of detox where all that is unhealed within us comes up in order to be released. That means that sometimes the quote-unquote perfect partner for us is not what my ego says, because my ego just wants somebody who says everything I want them to say and does everything I want them to do. But what spirit, which is the natural intelligence of the universe, would say is, I'm going to bring to you the person who triggers you in that area where you are unhealed. And the growth opportunity for them will be you will trigger them in the place where they are unhealed. If your egos are in charge, you will see this about each other, and one or both of you will say, I'm out of here. But the spirit, if you turn the relationship into a holy context, you see it as holy, you realize it's because we love each other that this stuff is coming up. That is why we were brought to each other. Because if we see all this and build a sacred temple for this love, then we will understand that this is going to come up from you and it's going to come up in me. But this is a laboratory. This is a hospital for the soul. And then the question becomes, at what point is it that? And at what point is, hey, you have to be accountable for something. I'm not going to stay for abuse.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, definitely.
But if you understand that that is why sometimes our biggest shadows do emerge in that place of intimate love, because there's such an opportunity for an experience of deep oneness, which is the experience of God.
Absolutely. So then how does that fit in? Is that the reason why people tend to get into patterns with relationships, like always attracting someone who's just like their mother or just like their father, or reflecting some of those deeper childhood?
Well, there are two things to say to that. The issue is not that you attracted them. The issue is that you were attracted to them. The fact that person comes into your life, yes, that person in one body or another is going to continue to come into your life in order for this wound to be healed. The problem is not that you attracted them. The nature attracted them. The problem is that you didn't learn the lesson, haven't learned the lesson yet. Sometimes the lesson is, I see who you are, I am not giving you my number. So the real deep issue is not that I attracted them. The issue is I am attracted to them.
Right.
The issue is that as soon as I saw that behavior, how interesting that I didn't cross the street immediately.
Yes,
right?
yes,
so
totally.
the fact that they came is part of the lesson. You haven't learned the lesson yet.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, the lesson is, I'm still not going there. Right?
Right. Which
So-
I think can be challenging, because if we're trying to grow and we're trying to evolve and we're thinking, okay, who's going to come into my life to be that, to serve that purpose for me, then it can be difficult, like you said, to know the boundaries, to know when.
It can be difficult, and challenging doesn't even begin to cover it. I mean, most of us have cried a lot of tears in this, and it's good that we can laugh about it,
Yeah.
but it's also true that some of our greatest suffering has come. But that is why prayer, once again, we think of spirituality as separate from this. This is why prayer matters. This is why spirituality matters. I'll give you an example. Dear God, I know this person is bad for me. I know that we get into this really dark stuff, and I know that it's not serving either of us, but dear God, I'm completely chemically addicted to this person. All I want to do is have sex with him, even though I know that that's the stupidest thing I could possibly do. I need a miracle here. I need all the dysfunctional cords broken, cut by me, because it's in my cells. It's in my, it's in those lower chakras. And I can't it becomes a kind of chemically addictive thing at that point. So prayer and meditation is as relevant to this area as any area, spiritual practice, and knowing that sometimes we need a miracle to lift us above and beyond the neurotic tendencies that have kept us in very fear-based, painful patterns, sometimes for many years or even decades.
I think that's so crucial, because we have, I know sometimes I fall into this trap where I think in order to spiritually evolve or to get to the next place, I have to be completely alone. I have to be completely separate. And
if only it were that easy.
I know. and what you're saying is that actually, what I talk a lot about the show is that spirituality is integrated into everything.
Well, the Course in Miracles says relationships are the laboratories of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
So, and it says heaven is entered two by two, heaven being an awareness fullness of our oneness. So I think there are times in the spiritual journey where we feel that a level of solitude is important. Not isolation, but solitude. And there's certainly been times in my life, for sure, where I have felt there's no point in my going into another relationship right now. I need to clear too many things that I think would be just brought up if I were in one right now. And then there comes another time when you know you sort of can't go any further by yourself. And then things happen.
Absolutely. And I think, what do you think about, I work with a lot of clients and a lot of people who are looking for love or longing for that partnership and that relationship.
Right.
And so I look a lot at like divine timing, or look at at when things are going to happen.
Right.
What do you think about someone like preparing? Can we prepare ourselves for love? And
well,
how do we
first
do
of
that?
all, the whole notion of looking for love and longing for the partner, those are emotional death traps. And let's talk about why. Love is all around you. The universe is love. The conscious person just doesn't hope that love will find them, hope that love, that like it's some stroke of luck. Love is an emotional skill set. And for me to have my emotional skill set right now with you, sometimes, let's say I'm sitting here talking to you right now, and then let's say I'm with a beloved intimate partner later in the evening. The truth of the matter is, the skill sets that I have developed in my talking to you right now are actually as important as any other I might have with a beloved partner later in the evening. What do I mean by that? I'm trying to be present. I'm trying to bring the fullness of myself. And I know that you are trying to create something beautiful, and I'm trying to create something beautiful, and we are collaborating so that the universe might be a better place.
Right.
That is the essence of all relationship skill.
Yeah.
Right? And including that I'm not trying to get something from you.
Yeah.
I know that my success in this moment comes from what I give, not from what I'm looking to get. I'm trying to work with you to create something together.
Right.
So the essence of right relationship in any relationship is the same as the essence of right relationship in every. So when we talk about preparing ourselves for love, one of the best ways you can prepare yourself for love is by being love in any situation. Because sometimes it's those basic skills that are the ones that are most lacking later in a relationship with a beloved. Now, as far as longing for it is concerned, we all saw Jerry Maguire. We saw Tom Cruise say to Renee Zellweger, you complete me. And we all thought, oh my God, that's so sexy and that's so romantic, until you think about it.
Right.
Because romantic love is not where two emotional invalids get joined at the hip. It's not a place where I am incomplete and you are incomplete and we will form one. That is very neurotic. It's hot for a few weeks, maybe a few months. Real high level sacred intimate partnership is where I am full, I'm complete, and you are complete. And I'm not, it's not like I need you, it's like I desire you. I need you, maybe, certain physical context, that can be hot. But that's not an all day, every day type of thing that works. What works is, I'm totally cool, I don't have to be here, but I really want to be here. You want to play? Want to create something together? Want to be even better than we could be by ourselves? You want that? Now, a real adult would say, yeah,
definitely.
Right. Whereas I need you begins to feel repellent to someone.
Absolutely.
Neediness is read by men, particularly as control.
And by some women, too.
Yes. So, the idea of I need you to complete me is not a positive.
Right.
And I'm longing. You long for God. If I long for God, if I make, because otherwise romance becomes a form of idolatry.
True.
And idolatries crash. If you think your romantic love is the source of your good, your partner in time will grow tired of having to carry that burden. And also the partner won't be getting anything from you because you're always at it from a give me, am I getting this? What am I getting out of this? What am I getting out of this? So if through prayer, through meditation, through serious spiritual practice, I realize that what completes me is the divine. And someone once said to me, and she was so right, a woman came up to me and said, it's not even that only God can fill that hole, it's that there is no hole. It's only an illusion that I'm incomplete anyway.
Absolutely.
And once I know that I'm complete, then I go into a relationship without fear. Then I can be seductive and playful and cool, and because I'm not like, oh my God, what if you don't say what I need you to say or do what I need you to do?
Exactly. Or what if you leave? Or what if you don't call me back?
Right.
Or
which almost guarantees that they will leave on some level at some time.
Right. And And relationships, and eventually all end. I mean, whether through
Well, another way of looking at it is that they never
in this
end.
lifetime, right? Yeah,
They never end. I think that's the whom God hath brought together, no one and nothing, not even death, can put asunder. I mean, I think once you enlightenment is a shift from body identification to spirit identification. And once again, bring this into everything. So that means that relationships change form. But you might have been in a relationship with someone 25 years ago, haven't seen them, but they're still in your mind. You might sleep with somebody every night, and that doesn't mean you're really joined, because it's of the mind. So knowing that relationships go on forever, even though they don't go on forever necessarily in this lifetime forever. The Course in Miracles, when I said before, it talked about relationships as assignments. You and I are brought together for as much time as physical proximity serves. Let's look at this just in normal relationships. Let's look at this in you and me. You and I have seen each other a few times. You were very helpful to me in my political campaign. I've seen you. I remember the fundraisers and parties, and I'm always really happy to see you. I don't think it's that we don't like each other, that we haven't called and said, let's have lunch. It's not that. I adore you. I think you're great. I hope we do someday.
Likewise.
But there's never been that, I've got to call her. Yeah. That we haven't done. Why? Because what we are here to learn together, it's not needed. It's not needed, or at least it hasn't been. And so that can be true in romantic relationships too. The Course says we are brought together for as much period of time as serves that maximal growth opportunity. And when physical proximity is no longer helpful, and or free will is always involved.
Right.
I've had relationships where I felt if he had given it longer, we could have gone further. And I've had relationships where men have said to me, if you had given it longer, we could have gone further. But sometimes two people, like a divorce, people say, well, the marriage didn't work. Sometimes the marriage worked just fine. And they looked at each other and they knew they didn't need to be physically together anymore. That's not necessarily a failure. That can be a success.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
How long bodies stay together is not necessarily the issue. It's what's happening on that soul level. And that goes on forever.
Absolutely.
Are we taking any questions from the chat room?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
yes.
I have one question. It's asking, what about the opposite when the sex is diminished but the connection is amazing and you're living towards the same goals?
My answer to that. One of the challenges, of course, in any long-term relationship is to regreen it. Sometimes people tend more to their vegetable gardens than to their intimate relationships. And what we all want, the excitement, there's a certain level of, I don't know you and you don't know me. And that's what makes it hot. And that's like
the mystery.
And you don't know who I am and I don't know who you are. And oh wow, naked but unembarrassed. Now, if you only identify by the body, then that's going to grow old because I do know you. I know what you're like. I know your habits. So I am no longer a space where you're invited to be someone new today than you were yesterday. So the key to long-term relationships is that knowing in any given morning, you can become whoever you choose to be today. I'm a space where I'm not expecting you to be who you were yesterday. I'm totally open to you being someone new today, and you are totally open to my being someone new today. Another thing I see in modern couples that blows my mind, people stop flirting, people stop courting. I remember there was so much that as I grew older, I looked at my parents' marriage in such a different way. My mother, I remember when my father came home at night, oh my God, what a big McGill it was. And I didn't realize for decades how smart my mother was. And she was always flirting with him. She was always, I think that generation just knew that this was a garden that needed to be tended. I think we get into this, well, it's not giving me this or giving me, well, of course it's not going to be hot anymore. So I think that to expect the sex to continue to be great, and I'm not coming from a place of, well, the sex goes away. I'm not buying into that. What I'm saying is that there's a certain level of electricity without which the sex will not be there, and sex is almost the least of the areas where this is a problem. So tending to the garden of love, the things that we do, even nervous system, the things that we take for granted, like you give a woman red roses, that is affecting a lot of her chakras.
Well, absolutely,
Right,
because roses have
all kinds
vibration,
of stuff, right? And candlelight and soft music and
Absolutely.
massages, all this kind of stuff, which you should be theoretically wanting to cultivate in the relationship for a lot more reasons than just so that it's sex. There's a term that Freud used called polymorphously perverse sexuality, and it's the idea of that everything should have a little bit of sex to it. We've so desexualized ourselves that it's all put into this genital context, and that puts a lot of pressure on the genital context.
Sure.
But we should have a more sexy orientation to life way beyond the bedroom, and then that helps it in the bedroom.
I agree, and actually this is kind of embodied in the concept of erotic power. You know, that eros is that enlivening force that's connected to our spirituality,
Right.
that has the ability to kind of infect everything that we do. And I think you talk a lot about like the fact that we have been in this patriarchal culture, and it's one in which that Aristotelian dualism, which is body is to female as spirit is to male, and the female is in some ways lesser than, and so we've been in this kind of dualistic thinking, which has shut us off from our bodies and shut us off from that sensuality. And that
Well, I think that
sexuality.
can be looked at another way as well, because in that earth as feminine, spirit as masculine, that does not necessarily, that's the basic yin and yang, and for instance, Eastern relationships, that does not of itself make the feminine less. As a
Right.
matter of fact, I really buy into the whole Pat Allen and all that kind of stuff, that two masculines cancel each other out and two feminine cancel each other out. That's not two men or two women. That has nothing.
Sure,
This is the same in gay relationships. But I think one of the issues that women have in modern society is that when you go to work, and when I go to work, we are in a masculine. The brain is in a masculine place. We are the giver, and your audience is the receiver. Now, I don't know if you feel this way, but I've certainly experienced it in my life. This mode of being in my work, where I'm the basic giver, the audience is receiver, then they give back. It's not more than, or greater than. It's just that's the way the yin and the yang work. If I go later in the evening and I'm still in that mode, it will not work for me with a man. And that's why Pat Allen is fascinating, talking about how it takes 30 minutes for the brain to literally shift mode. And that, I call it goddess time. At the end of work, you go home, you take a bubble bath, you meditate, you do yoga, you do your spiritual practice, you do candlelight, soft music. And when men understand this, they take the kids and go, come on, kids, let's give your mom her 30 minutes. Because it takes the brain 30 minutes to move into the feminine mode. That's another issue of why sex, because if I'm in my masculine, two masculines cancel each other out and two feminine cancel each other out. And if I'm in my masculine mode, I'm not, it's difficult to connect. Whereas if I'm in my feminine mode, the masculine produces into the feminine, and that's a whole different ballgame, sexually as well as everything else.
It's in astrological terms, we talk about this in terms of balancing the Venus and Mars energies.
Right.
That Mars, that assertive, aggressive,
And
sort
Venus
of,
isn't seen as less than.
No,
Exactly.
they're equal. They're necessary for creation and procreation.
Right. Exactly, on every level.
Yeah, and definitely. So
Sparks the fire.
yes, it does. So we have a question, which is, what do you see as the biggest reason for infidelity in relationships?
Well, it's got a lot to it. One first thing is people do not honor agreements in a way that, the word righteous means right use. I'm not a prude, and some people have an open relationship, and I honor that. But what is sacred, and must be sacred, or else society falls apart, is an agreement between two people. And we don't take agreements seriously enough in our day. We take getting what we want more seriously than keeping an agreement. And that's the important thing about monogamy, whether in marriage or outside marriage, but particularly in marriage, if that is the agreement. So number one, unfortunately, is that people have lost a sense that agreements matter and will affect your whole life. That's number one. Number two, I think that we've stopped tending to the garden in too many cases. That's what I see in relationships. People stop trying. They think, well, we're married now, I don't have to try anymore. And they are not, the marriage is no longer a space where I can be made new. So, where I have permission to be new. I have permission to be different. So, of course, you're attracted to someone who doesn't know how you put the, how you deal with the toothpaste tube, and doesn't know whether or not you leave your underwear on the floor, and doesn't know whether or not you clean up after yourself and put your dishes in the dishwasher. So to them, there's more of a space where you feel you can be whatever you want to be today. You know, I read a book many years ago. This is one of the best things I've ever read on this topic. And the book is called Advice from an Old Mistress to a Young Wife. And I think the person's name is Michael Drury.
I love that name.
Advice from an Old Mistress
That's so
to a Young
beautiful.
Wife. It's the best advice, and it's not written as an advice book. And I think it was written back in the 50s or the early 60s, I'm not sure. And this woman was this man's mistress for many, many years. And she talks about what he got from her that he didn't get from his wife. And she was saying, wives should act like this. Wives should act like this. You know, we allow, and this is what I mean by tending to a sacred garden. You know, I remember somebody came to my house one day and she did feng shui. And by the way, when it comes to sex, I'm telling you, feng shui in the bedroom and where the bed is placed is so powerful.
And having balanced nightstands.
It's true. Anyway, one of the other things
having balanced nightstands too, equal partnership.
That's right. All that stuff is feng shui is very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the things that I heard about in feng shui was that if you have your exercise equipment in your bedroom, the relationship will be too much work. And there are so many ways in which you look at your house and you look at your clothes and you look at your bedroom, there's nothing erotically cultivated. And I think that these are the things that must be only built more and more the longer the relationship lasts, because otherwise the brain just, you know, you're not tending to your nervous system.
Absolutely.
So I think that's those two things are very important in terms of infidelity.
Right. That makes sense. And I think, you know, you raise a good point, which is that the symbolism of our space, the symbolism of our bodies, the symbolism, everything everything in our environment prepares us for being love and the expression of love and who we bring into our house and into our space and into our personal space as well as our physical environmental space.
You know, I'm from the generation that, you know, the 60s revolution, sexual revolution, and in many ways it was a bursting through old boxes and constrictions that was good, but it created an over-casualization of sex. And many of us have the scars to prove that. And there's a real rebalancing, of course, that's
that's represented by some of the same astrological influences that were present in the 60s.
Tell me.
So Uranus and Pluto were conjunct in the 60s, which you know, Uranus is all about revolution, and Pluto is evolution. And so you have these two energies coming together, saying we need to break free from the structures and the constructs that we have been assigned.
We did.
And now that influence is back in a similar way right now, and we've been seeing it since 2012. But what we're doing is we're reestablishing what freedom actually means.
Wow.
That
it's not licensed.
It's not.
We made it licensed. It has to be real freedom is inherent to that which is good and true and beautiful.
Exactly. And which is universal, which is good for me and you, and you know, people in Syria and people in Palestine.
Good point.
So you know, so now
and
we're exactly. So now we have an opportunity, you know, symbolically to really revisit our relationships and ourselves and what freedom and autonomy actually is. Autonomy is intersubjective. It's not
just me. The cell in the body, in its actualized state, collaborates with other cells to form the healthy functioning of the whole. And a cell that says, no, I'm completely autonomous, I don't want to collaborate with other cells, I just want to go off and do my own thing, is of course a cancer cell. And that is a spiritual malignancy as well as a physical malignancy. That's the attitude that is our cancer. It's just about me, and I want to do my own thing, and I don't want to collaborate with you. And if I have that attitude, there's no way I can bond in an intimate relationship, because if anything is collaboration, it's intimacy. And the other thing about intimacy is that it's not something you find, it's something you recognize. Because what could be more intimate than that we are one? What could be more intimate than that you are in a body, I am in a body, but at a more truer, more fundamental level, there's no place where your spirit stops and mine starts. So that if I shift my thinking to the realization that at the deepest level we are one, the intimacy in that is something I recognize by extending my perception beyond my physical senses. It's not something I have to create. It's something I realize. And that's why forgiveness is the key to intimacy. Because forgiveness is when I'm willing to see beyond your mistakes And that's why I think forgiveness is, in any relationship, but particularly intimacy, more important than anything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a couple of questions. Okay. One is, if you grow up in a more fear than love, and your default becomes fear, how do you shift back?
Well, welcome to the human race. You and everybody else. We all were. I mean, it's a fear. The consciousness of the human race is based on fear. So all of us, no matter, even if you lived in a lovely childhood home and with the best of intentions. So this is a planetary condition. So many people these days say, well, I've had an anxiety disorder. I've had a depressive disorder. And I feel like saying, who doesn't? Like, wake up and see the state of the world today. Hello? Who's not anxious? So this is what a serious spiritual path is. It is an unlearning of the thinking of the world and replacing it with the thinking of spirit. Now, I'm a student of the Course in Miracles. That's one statement of a universal truth. There are many spiritual paths. So the answer to that question is either you know what your spiritual path is and you're not doing it, or you don't know. And if you ask in your heart and pray and say, I want my spiritual path that will lead me to you, God, or God as you understand, and whatever the words, books will fall at your feet. You know?
It's so true.
Yeah, and if you're in LA, come see my lectures on Monday night.
Exactly. Come see your lecture and
or live stream
it, no matter where you are. And if you're looking for books to fall into your lap, here are just two of them, right here: A Return to Love and Enchanted Love. And these are two of many of your transformative, incredible works. So
Thank you.
This one changed my life when I was in college. I read that and it literally set my course. So yes, read those books if you haven't already. So we have just a few minutes left, and on my show, I always like to kind of look at your chart and
cool.
and see what's in store for you. And since we're on the subject of love, I just want to point out a couple of things without giving too much information. But one is you were born with your Sun and Venus in conjunction. And in the lovely, nurturing, giving, full feminine sign of Cancer, and so so what that suggests is that so much of your life is and so much of your identity is based on your relationships and based on, and not your identity, but really more of like your priorities, your focus, where you shine tends to be in relationships. And you're getting ready to sort of come out of a time when Pluto's been in your house of relationships for about 12 years.
That's destructive, right?
It's not destructive. It's destructive in order to reconstruct. Mm-hmm. So you've been in the laboratory in deep, intense research. So what do you
am I coming out of?
You're coming out of that. So that's where my question is.
A couple of people would like to know.
So yes, you are coming out of that, and do you feel yourself going through a shift? I mean, you're leading this workshop, you're always recreating yourself, you're always doing new things. So do you feel yourself moving out of this?
I do feel in every area of my life actually that a chapter is closing. Yeah. So I don't know how that relates to that particular area of life any more or less than any other. But a chapter is closing, and something new that is on the horizon. Yeah,
beautiful.
I see that.
Beautiful, great. So, how can we register for?
Thank you. Well, you can find out the information about all my work on Marianne.com. Monday nights. Live in LA, but also live streamed, free my lectures Monday night. You can find out about that at Marianne.com. And then I'm doing this workshop, which is called Invoking the Romantic Mysteries on Spirituality and Relationships, on the weekend of February 13th, 14th, 15th.
Valentine's Day.
Starting that evening of Friday night, going till 8 o'clock with meal breaks, of course, on Saturday, and then from 10 to 1 on Sunday. And the early bird pricing, you've got till midnight this Sunday to get the early bird. I think I'm not sure if it says on your card what it is exactly. Some of them do. Oh, yeah, it's if you do the weekend early bird to be there, $199 for the weekend, and the live stream $99 for the weekend is live streamed by Sunday night at midnight, and some scholarship opportunities as well. And I think it's going to be a deep, and for people who really allow themselves to be deep in the experience, meaningful. You know, I think of myself in my work like an aerobics instructor. By going through these moves, I try to stay in shape myself, but I can't do the moves for you. So you have to really work on training your muscles. You know, we do physical exercise to train our bodies, and we do spiritual exercises to train our minds, our attitudes, our emotional, you know, so that we are well honed attitudinally. And being in shape for love through your reaction, and that you're not reactive, that you have impulse control, that you know how to stay in your power and stay in your love and stay in your goodwill and your beneficence and your compassion, and as you were saying, your eroticism and all of that. If you want a good workout on those things, that's what we'll be talking about.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I can't wait. I'm so excited. And then I guess
Marianne.com.
Yeah, Marianne.com. So visit Marianne.com and sign up for the show there. And you're also speaking at the Conscious Life Expo next weekend.
Is that when it is? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
6th through the 8th, February 6th through the 8th.
And we're actually broadcasting live from there, and so we will hopefully see you next weekend, and definitely see you at the workshop.
Great, thank you.
So thank you so
great
much.
Great to see you.
It's so great to see you
I
too.
do want to call you, and I do.
Great.
Let's get together.
I would love that.
Okay, thank you,
Great.
honey.
Thank you. So this hour has just flown by. It has gone so fast, as it always does. Thank you so much to Marianne Williamson for being our guest today. Thank you, Michelle Polino, for making the connection. And thanks always to my creative team, Valerie Madden, ValerieMadden.com, Allie Lang, Lori Gold, all of you on my creative team. And next week is a really exciting week. We're broadcasting live from the Conscious Life Expo, and I have Susan Miller, one of my favorite astrologers and one of my astrology mentors, is going to be my guest Sunday night. We're going to be broadcasting live, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. And next Friday, we have we'll be back at the same time, same place, with another very special guest, a relationship expert, continuing our series, A Month of Love. So we're going to lead you out with an Aquarian musician singing about love, Sarah McLaughlin. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.